In this episode of Talking Clock, we again sit down with Adrian to talk Patek. For those who are unfamiliar, he is one of the largest Patek collectors in Singapore. If you missed it, do watch the first part where he talks about how to start an AD journey. Also, please consider subscribing for weekly watch videos. Enjoy. So I think out of the collectors in Singapore, at least those who are online, you probably have the most complete collection of sports watches, Patek sports watches, I mean. So obviously it's a brand that is very close to you. How exactly did you get into Patek?
I got into Patek, I would say 7-8 years ago. Back then, the Nautilus series, say the 5711s, were obviously not as hot as they are today. You could waitlist yourself for perhaps 3-4 months and get a piece for the blue dial. The white dial will be quite readily available, because it's quite ugly.
Maybe even at discount back then, no?
Yeah, probably 6-7 years ago, when I bought my 5712R, the one in rose gold, I got like a 25% discount. I paid $42,000 or $43,000 for it. You could still haggle with the dealers, haggle with your 80s. And the funny thing is, back in those days, there was also no fixed RRP on the watches.
Oh,
80s
wow.
could call any price they wanted.
That's nice.
On whatever they had, be it a Rolex, be it a Patek. There was no control over the prices. So when they knew that they were only ones in Singapore having that stock for that watch for that month, and if you're desperately looking for it, it could be like 1.2 or 1.3 times retail.
Wow,
right?
Almost like Grey Dealer.
Yeah. I was laughing at my friend because 5 years ago he was getting married. He actually placed an order with Cortina on a 5167A Aquanaut, and it was meant to it was a wedding gift to himself. A week before the wedding, he received a call, and I was having lunch with him, and he's like, "Hey, I got a call. My 5167 is here." And I said, "Are you picking it up?" And he says, "I'm still thinking about it." And it's like, "Why are you thinking about it?" And he says the dealer is only giving me, the 80 is only giving me 5% discount on it. I want 10%, and they just refuse to give in to me. And I was just thinking about buying a used one, because a used one is just like 2 to 3 grand below retail.
Okay.
Perhaps I could buy one in a good condition and save a bit of money, save like 3 grand.
Yep.
Right? And I was like, it's your wedding gift. Just buy a brand new one, just go for it. He took 3 days to think about it. He tried to negotiate to 7 to 8% discount. The AD refused to back down. In the end, he went for it.
Okay, fine.
And till today, I'm always joking with him over this, because it's probably the best decision he has ever made in his life, right?
Yeah. Good return if you were to sell.
Yeah. Well, it's not that he sold it as well, because it was a wedding gift for himself. Yeah. But definitely, you're asking me how I actually started it. It was my 5712R. I had a 5711 blue dial, and then I started going to my Aquanauts, and then because I'm so obsessive over everything I collect, it became one color after another color after another color that I needed to have, and so the collection just automatically went on from there.
Then, out of all the ones that you've collected, what would you say is or if you could only keep one Patek sports watch, and also it has to be a specific color, anything, whether it's in your collection now or not, what would it be?
So I'm sure you already know that I love my blue dials. I have a soft spot for blue color, right? I have the 5740 perpetual calendar. It's something that I hold very dearly in my heart. Something that if I were to let go of my entire Patek collection, one day, that would probably be the only piece I keep.
Interesting. Wow.
Yeah.
Over the green.
And well, I guess the 5740 is, to me, is the king of Nautilus.
I agree, 100%.
Yeah, and well, it doesn't end there. I mean, one day I would like to collect, my split-second chrono. I would like to go on to collect my minute repeaters. Yeah, for example, the 5531R. Pieces that, or even an enamel world time. Believe it or not, I don't own a single world time. Right? Did you realize that? Yeah, I don't own any 5131s or 5231s. Yeah, and it's something that I'm on the lookout for. Yeah, something that I've been after for quite some time.
Yeah. Then I'm curious because Patek is obviously, I think, referred to some as part of a holy trinity. I hate that term, but whatever. Together with Vacheron and AP, how would you say that Patek compares to those brands in your eyes, at least as far as like the watches? Because values are obviously a very different thing.
Not comparing, well, it's something very, very difficult to tell you how it holds in my eyes. Patek always holds a very special place in my heart, and I would say it's the entire family of Patek, be it from the service I get from the AD to the customer service center to the senior management of Patek. I find that they actually go an extra step, an extra mile, to get to know you better, to understand you better, and you feel more connected with the brand.
Fine.
Right? So, for example, Rolex, is a brand that I have no idea who the owner is. I have no idea who to contact. There is no one that actually promotes the brand, or you can talk to about the brand, or would share much, information or host events about the watches. They lack that intimacy, right? And that is something that I think Patek has got it right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then it's sort of like the relationship, well, as you said, with the previous AD segment, I think it's been built up to a point where it kind of doesn't feel so worth it for you to go into like an AP, for example. I mean, I suppose your relationship with that brand is interesting, so.
Well, if you were to, treat me better,
not a time
I will probably consider, but definitely not a chrono. But having said that, yes, you do know that I own 6, 7, 8 pieces, at least 8 pieces of AP.
Yeah, you actually own quite a few APs.
I own quite a few APs.
Yeah, you had a phase back then.
Yeah, a bunch of offshore Royal Oaks.
Even a jumbo.
Diver 15202. Yeah. Yes, I also have the Panda Chrono, to be honest, the 41mm.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. That one I passed on to my brother. So yes, I do have my fair share of AP collection, but unfortunately I don't wear them as often as I wear my Rolexes and my Pateks. Yeah.
Now I'm curious, as someone who has both a lot of Nautilus and Aquanaut, so for me personally, I've always thought of the Aquanauts as kind of inferior generally to a Nautilus. If given a choice, I would always pick any Nautilus over its Aquanaut counterpart. For you, having so many of both, how do you compare the two collections, especially like when choosing what to wear for the day? I mean, obviously today you have your 5968 on.
So it's quite strange that Patek calls the Nautilus a sport model.
Yeah, it's not.
Because I don't really see that as a sport model. I see that more as like a formal watch in a way. Because when you talk about a sport model, I feel comfortable swimming or cycling or going hiking with my Aquanaut. But I would feel a bit strange to swim with a Nautilus.
No, 100%.
Right? So I actually view them as two different categories. Days that I feel I probably dress more casual. I don't really have many meetings going on. I'll be happy to slap on an Aquanaut, or over the weekend something bright like this, orange. Out with my kids for the weekend to the mall, or just for coffee. Yeah. Well, I feel the Nautilus is something that I could even wear to a black tie event, you know, or I would wear to my meetings or wear for work. Yeah. So I actually split them in these two categories, right? Yeah.
No, fair enough. I think that's quite a good point. I used to have a 5711, and of course I think I swam with it once.
Yeah.
But like you said, it's not a watch because they're so thin and they're so elegant. They don't really feel like sporty in the same way that obviously a Rolex does. So yeah, I think very different models. Then I think sports watches aside, just now you touched on a few, pieces that you'd like to have going forwards, whether it's 5231 or 5531. I think your Patek journey has lasted a few years now, but of course you yourself are quite young still. Going forwards, is there still, or what exactly do you look to collect from the brand? What are the grail sort of pieces that you think would bring your Patek journey sort of like to an end?
I love the enamel dials, and the recent launch of the racing car one.
Oh yeah,
I think those were beautiful.
You also have one rare handcraft.
I do have one rare handcraft, and so perhaps being able to expand my collection in more unique pieces. As you know, enamel dials, they only make 5, 10, 15 pieces, for a specific dial, for a specific model, and it's a lot more special. The good thing about these pieces is that there's not too much hype over them, right? There are people collecting them, but there's not too much hype over them.
Yeah, even like something like a 5231, considering how hard it is to get,
yeah,
the premium actually isn't that big.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah. But I'm not bothered about where the price is. It's what I like and what I want to move towards too. And something else which I've always liked is also the 5204R. That one has been discontinued.
The grey dial.
The grey dial, split second chrono, beautiful piece, sits perfectly on my wrist.
Oh, the
very
size.
Good size. Yeah. And then of course, perhaps even a skeleton minute repeater one day, right? Should I be able to get one?
The tourbillon skeleton.
Yeah, exactly. That
Yeah.
skeleton.
Okay, that would be like the ultimate.
That would be the ultimate grail for me. Again, I am very worried about even coming to that point, because after I get that, what else? What's next?
Yeah.
So at this point in time right now, right, I guess what I'm trying to do right now is to start enjoying my pieces more. Take a step back, ask myself what I really want in watches, as I mentioned earlier, and really take in and enjoy the entire journey, right, and not rush towards the end.
Interesting. Then I'm curious, over the past, I'd say maybe especially 2 years since COVID hit, or at least for me, I wasn't super into watches, if you extend it pre-COVID. But over the past few years, it feels like increasingly Patek releases new watches that caters towards maybe younger taste. Whether this year is the 6007 with the funky colors, or last year, I think, was it last year? But you had the World Time chronograph in platinum with the bright green dial, or the grainy dial 5236 or 5326. We see like more watches going along those lines, whereas I think traditionally Patek has been like, or I know them for like the classic designs, the perpetual calendars, like that sort of thing. In your eyes, are you a fan of this sort of direction that Patek is going in with their new releases, or what is your take on it?
No, I think it's completely brilliant, and kudos to Patek for coming up with more affordable models for people who are just starting their watch journey. Watches that look a lot younger, watches that probably look a lot better on younger people as well, because Patek always has this image of someone being more matured, right?
Yeah, it would be like for my dad or something.
Yeah. So only of recent years has it sort of been the younger generation has started liking it.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So before that, they were always like, yeah, you know, I would rather a Rolex. You know, Patek is like an old man's watch, right? But I would think something has created this. I mean, social media has definitely created this hype, right? For all watches, for that matter. Yeah, and this is definitely, you know, the whole new marketing campaign or strategy, and social media has totally changed the outlook and the image of the brand.
Yeah, I think it's a good direction, especially for, you know, well, Patek, for most people, you have to buy through an AD. And it's nice that nowadays, you know, even within Patek itself, you have a lot more options, especially for young people. Like you said, you don't, you know, necessarily need to go like straight super high end like perpetual calendars. Now you actually have very nice, exciting Calatravas. I think, have you seen them in person already?
Yes, I have.
Yeah, but I think they're quite nice also. But yeah, I think to round off the Patek topic, one thing I've always been curious to ask is, let's say hypothetically, you had to create a Patek only collection of 3 watches. You have unlimited budget, but you can't, you know, do a piece unique or something like that. Out of current catalog, what would you pick?
I would definitely want to own the skeleton minute repeater.
Okay.
Right. To me, that is something so out of the norm of a normal Patek. You know, for Patek tourbillons, all the minute repeaters, you usually would see the gong and, you know, the entire mechanism behind, right, from the case back. But this is the first time that you can actually see it, right? For the 5313, you can actually see it on the front.
I think it's the only tourbillon from Patek.
From the front.
Yes.
Right. And I think that piece is amazing. It's like my grail piece, right? And of course the sailboat, right? The 5531.
Okay.
That's something I also like very, very much.
Are you a fan of the G though, compared to the rose gold version?
Well, I mean, the rose gold version has been discontinued, right? So yeah, I will be happy with that. And then I did mention to you about the 5204R. Again, you know, it's something that I really like. You know, Alex, if you're listening into this, I think he's happy to let it go to me. Yeah, so if you ask me, these are the 3 like grail watches. Not talking about my current Aquanaut or Nautilus selection, because I did tell you that I think if you ask me to keep one Patek that I have in my collection, that would be the 5740.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, nice. I think 3 grails, and especially what stands out to me about Patek compared to like a VC or an AP is that I feel like Patek high-end watches are super desirable. I'm not sure what it is about, you know, whether it's the sound of the minute repeaters, the quality of the enamel, or even the designs. I think that's one thing they have above VC for me personally, even as maybe VC X ambassador, but yeah, or even above AP as well. So yeah, I think that is perhaps to me the ultimate watch brand in a way.
Yeah. So you know, I can just also give you a very fine example of the customer service at Patek. So while I was in Geneva and London, I walked into
and this is during the past Watches and Wonders.
Just a recent 2-3 months ago when I was at Watches and Wonders. So I was in the main Patek salon in Geneva, and then I went to London and I visited the Patek salon in New Bond Street, right? I walked to the door and there was a sign there like by appointment only. The guy opens the door and he's like, oh no, you know, please, you're more than welcome to come in. As A comes up to me, he attends to me immediately. He sits me down. It's like, you know, unfortunately nothing here is for sale, but please let me show you something really special that we have here. He takes it out, he brings out his laptop, and he starts telling me about the history, about the specifications, about the details of the piece. And, you know, he was just, you know, talking to me as if I was a friend of his, He asked me if I also wanted to see the workshop, which is in the basement, and to have a look around. The kind of level of service, they didn't know who I was. I'm not a VIP in London. It was probably my first time walking into that store, into the outlet. And, they offered me drinks, they sat me down, right? And they spent reasonable, like half an hour to 45 minutes, right? And not trying to sell me anything, but just talking to me, talking watches, right? I walk past AP, the doorman says, "You have no appointment? Go make an appointment. They're all busy," right?
Basically Singapore as well.
Yeah. So it's, I don't know, it's a really different culture, very, very different experience. Again, that's why, I love the brand.
No, but I think I used to joke about it kind of like half, or people used to make fun of me when I said, the whole like boutique experience, because back then when I got started with Vacheron as an example, they did treat me very well, like invitation to events, and at least back then at the start, even when watches were harder to get, like I got my overseas in like a week or something like that.
4500.
Yeah. So they've always treated me very well, and as much as people can say like, oh, you're kind of buying the watch, but honestly the experience does matter a lot, especially if you're like looking at the longer term of things. And personally, that's kind of why I think you don't want to make things seem so transactional, especially I think what Lange has done is a very short-sighted thing, where it's like such transparent bundling, and it makes it, you kind of remove like part of the passion out of it, things like that. But regardless, it's nice to hear that Patek is so good. And I mean, you've met Terry Stern a number of times as well in the past. Yeah, how has your experience been actually talking to him?
He's actually a very, very humble man. Very jovial. He loves his drink. A very fun guy to talk to meet up with. He's far from snooty, and he can talk to just anybody, which I think he just makes a very good representation of the brand.
Yeah, I agree. I think I was at the Cortina anniversary, and he was there, and it's impressive to see how he's just like constantly smiling, and people can take photos with him. I'm not sure if he's wasted or whatever, but generally for someone who's, I assume, a billionaire, yeah, he can easily choose to not be that. He can be an asshole if he wants, but he's definitely far from that. Yeah. But awesome. Yeah. And I think
so he actually puts a face to Patek.
Yes.
Yeah, and it's amazing, right?
Yep.
So if you ask me, is there a face to AP? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, their CEO is outgoing, but even then, it's never been the most positive image I think that people have.
Or VC, is that a face to VC?
Oh, definitely not.
I have no idea. No. Yes, of course, for the indie brands, I definitely know, Max Muser, right? Edward Milan from Muser, right? So, yes, I do talk to them, and which is why I enjoy collecting their watches as well, because there's a different kind of personal touch, right? Or be it the Debutune, for that matter, right? It's a different kind of personal touch that you have with these manufacturers.
In next week's episode, we discuss why Frank Muller is underrated and talk through various independent brands and the issue of watch fatigue.